All right, well, producer Coop just pushed me live for some reason, so welcome into Steelers Talk Live. I am your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Of course, we are still on Aaron Rodgers' watch here in Pittsburgh, and it's getting kind of annoying here, producer Coop. You know, we've been waiting since last Friday. It was the last time we've been live on this channel, and we're still waiting. Now, we don't know the exact reason why we're waiting. We could be waiting because Rodgers wants more money. We could be waiting because he's torn between the Giants and the Steelers. We could be waiting because he's deciding whether or not to retire. All we know is that we are still waiting, even though the Minnesota Vikings, according to Tom Pelissero, are out on Aaron Rodgers. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening in the days to come. I'll bring on producer Coop here. We're in our new studio.
Yeah.
And you got your headset on. And
I'll blame the new studio for the reason the intro didn't play.
We can blame the new studio, even though it was definitely
it was definitely my fault, but that's all right.
But that's all right. You know, we don't need the intro. Sometimes we can just go right into it. But, you know, as we wait for Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to kind of shift away from the Rodgers content, at least for today's live show, guys. Today, we got the latest Steelers draft rumors. I'll let you guys know who all the top NFL draft analysts are predicting for the Steelers in the first round of the NFL draft. Then we'll get into some early round quarterback targets. I got my full scouting reports on Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, and more. And then we'll finish up today's show with my latest Steelers mock draft. It's my 4.0. It's my fourth mock draft of the draft season, but it's my first since free agency started,
yes.
Coop. So this is a pretty big one here today. Thank you so much to everybody that is tuning in on today's live show. And if you're here and you're a real one, shout out your city down there in the comments section. Let's see who's all here today. We got Christian Andujar. We got Jack. We got Jagger. We got Damian Roy. We got Ali the Reaper. We got Football Pro, Kevin Reed, Lucas Skew. We've got Ali the Reaper again, Steelers fan, Ross. We got Isaac. We got Mr. Deadhead, Abel. Who else we got here today? We got Zaneta, we got David Settle, Steeli is here, we got Bob Locke, we got William D, got Tortilla? How do you say that? It says light the beam, so I guess we got a Portland Trailblazer fan, or Sacramento King fan in here. Jeffrey Black is from Roswell, Minnesota. We got Red Rabbit from Salt Lake City. Ryan May says, what's up? What's up, Ryan? We got Gary Frank is here. We got Loney Rowe from San Angelo, Texas.
Yep.
Where's that at? Is that close to us, Coop?
No, that's west.
That's west. We got Michael. We got Glenn here from Sprague's, Pennsylvania. We got Gary Frank again. Cooper Cohen. Brock Walker's here. What's up, Brock?
What up, Brock?
We got Yinzer Jake from Canton, Ohio. From,
Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Pro Football Hall of Fame right there. We got Lee. We got Eric. Pizza is goated. Dwayne Johnson. Says real one. Man, we got a good crew.
You guys watching March Madness today?
We're watching March Madness.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching March Madness, and it's March Madness here in Steelers Nation.
Indeed.
Because we still have no idea who this team's starting quarterback is going to be.
What a joke.
2 weeks after free agency, which is nuts. All right, so we're gonna figure it all out today. If you guys want to send in a donation, if you got a topic you want me and Coop to discuss today, as always, you guys can send in a super chat. If you send in a super chat with a topic in there, we will make sure to talk about it, whether it's Rodgers related, whether it's draft related, whatever. We will talk about a topic if you send in a super chat. And that's any amount super chat, guys. We greatly appreciate anybody that donates to our show. And then also, if you guys want to send in a donation via Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal, you can find us at Jack-Sperry, # Captain Jack 19 on Cashapp, or at Captain Jackrabbit on PayPal. And I'll let you guys know, we did this last week, but it's still going on because Rodgers has not made his decision. Once Rodgers makes his decision, we will be going live on this channel. And on that live show, we are going to be giving away a Steelers jersey. All right, so if you want to enter the raffle for that jersey, it's $20 to enter. All right, so you can get in on that jersey raffle before we even go live on that live stream by putting in a $20 donation. And here's what I'll say, guys. If you put in a $20 super chat, we'll give you one raffle ticket. But if you use Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, we'll give you 2 raffle tickets because YouTube takes a 30% cut of every single super chat you guys send in. But with Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, we get to keep more of the proceeds. So if you guys are going to help us out by going Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, we're going to help you out by getting you an extra raffle ticket for that Steelers jersey. So greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Also, if we can get to $100 total by the end of our final segment today, we'll go live for 10 extra minutes. And by the way, we'll stay live for as long as the Super Chats keep rolling in. So if you guys have questions, if you have comments, if you want to get in on the jersey raffle, today's an excellent opportunity to do just that. Now, before we get into our first segment today, spam those me's down there in the comment section if you like today's stream already. We got 244 people watching. A good crew of Steelers fans still waiting for Aaron Rodgers with us here today. We need to get to at least 50 likes, though, before we get into our first segment, guys. So type those me's. Coop's going to give some shout-outs here while I hydrate.
It's been 84 years since the Steelers had a quarterback. Shout out Pizza is goated. Dan Flask, Christopher, Kevin Reed, Buddy Bear, what's good? Matt Galen. I see Eclectic, Mr. Deadhead, Wood, Herb, Ali Daripa, Ryan May, Red Rabbit, Lee Moses, Andrew, Brock Walker. Shout out to all the real ones in the chat. It looks like you got your Steelers aid there today.
Yeah. I've got my my black and yellow vitamin water. They rebranded to make it even more black and yellowy. So just had to rep it today.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get into our first segment here in just a second here, folks. With my latest Steelers draft rumors, I'll be reacting to Mel Kiper Jr., Joel Klatt, Daniel Jeremiah are picking for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we'll get into some early round quarterback draft targets where I'm going to give my full scouting report on Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, Jalen Milroe, all the guys the Steelers could be targeting at the quarterback position in the draft this year. And then we'll get into my latest Steelers 7-round mock draft, my fourth one of the season and my first since the beginning of NFL free agency. So without further ado, Coop, let's get into our first segment here. The latest Steelers draft rumors are coming at you guys right now. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we've got the latest Steelers mock draft roundup where I'm going to be reacting to who the top NFL draft analysts around all of draft media are projecting for the Pittsburgh Steelers in round one of the 2025 NFL draft when this team selects their pick at number 21 overall in Green Bay in just a few short weeks. But before we get into the content today, guys, shout out your guy down there in the comments section. Who do you want the Pittsburgh Steelers to take in round one this year? Do you want them to take a defensive tackle? Do you want them to take a running back? Do you want them to take a quarterback? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who is your favorite draft prospect for the Steelers to target this year? So we'll start with the Godfather himself here, Mel Kiper Jr., who projects the Pittsburgh Steelers will take defensive tackle out of Oregon, Derek Harmon. Now, Harmon has actually compared his game to Cam Hayward, which is why he is a fan favorite among Steelers fans right now. This is what Mel Kiper Jr. had to say about this fit. I'm going to assume they sign Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, which will take care of the quarterback position. Running back is a potential play if Ashton Genty or Omarion Hampton is available. Cornerback also could be the move as new signing Darius Slay is 34 and on a one-year deal. However, I'm addressing the defensive line in my projection. Harmon has the versatility to move all over the D-line, but his best spot is inside where he can use his speed and power to be disruptive. So listen, man, my thoughts on Derek Harmon is that he is extremely disruptive. Quick mover, great get off, really quick and powerful hands, and he can get into the backfield very quickly. But he does have a tackling issue. He has a missed tackle rate of over 20%, which is astronomical. And the reason for that, guys, at least in part, is because sometimes he's so disruptive, he gets out of position, and then he ends up missing tackles, all right? So he does rack up the tackle for loss numbers. He racks up the sack numbers. He is a disruptive force. And when it comes to the defensive tackle position, guys, having a disruptive interior pass rusher is so important and can be a game-changing presence for your defense. My preferred defensive tackle is actually not Derek Harmon, though, guys. It is Kenneth Grant, the nose tackle out of Michigan. He's the best run-defending DT in this class, in my opinion. He's 340 pounds, but he's a fantastic athlete. I would like Kenneth Grant because you can move Keanu Benton back to maybe more his more preferred position, which is 3 technique, and you can put Cam Hayward at 5 technique, and you can allow Kenneth Grant to eat those double teams and be the true run stuffer that this defense really needs right now. But a dark horse to keep your eye on, especially if the Steelers trade down in the first round, which is more than possible, is Darius Alexander out of Toledo. As you guys know, Mike Tomlin likes to get very involved at the Senior Bowl. He is right there watching all the players, especially the trench players. And Darius Alexander arguably had the best week in Mobile out of any defensive tackle present. He is versatile. He can play nose. He can play 3. He can play 5. He's got very powerful hands. He plays with good technique. And I think that he is one of the more well-rounded defensive tackles in this entire class. So keep your eye on Darius Alexander. He's a Sperry Psycho this year, and I think he could sneak into the first round. And if the Steelers trade down, I think he might be a target that they look at. So pick a defensive tackle for me down there in the comments section. I would say this is probably the most likely position for the Steelers to take in round 1 here. So pick your guy. Type KG for Kenneth Grant. Type DH for Derek Harmon. WN for Walter Nolan, or DA for Darius Alexander. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know who your top defensive tackle is for the Steelers this year. Then we'll move over to Fox Sports, where Joel Klatt, their NFL draft analyst and college football analyst, has the Steelers going offensive tackle for the 3rd straight season. Armin Membu out of Mizzou is his pick. Now, first things first here, guys, I think Membu is one of the guys that's one of the more fast risers in this year's draft class, and I think that he's going to go top 11. I think that his floor is the San Francisco 49ers at number 11, and I think he could go as high as number 4 to the New England Patriots. I also think that the New York Jets at number 7 would be highly interested in a guy like Armin Membu. Also, I'd be pretty shocked if the Pittsburgh Steelers end up going offensive tackle for the 3rd straight season in round 1 yet again. They traded up for Broderick Jones 2 years ago, and then they stayed put to take Troy Fautano out of Washington last year. All right, so unless their plan is to move Fautano to guard, which isn't impossible, he can play guard. I really do not see this as a possibility for the Steelers, and you combine the fact that I think Membu's going to go a lot higher than when the Steelers are actually going to be ending up picking. I just don't think that this is a realistic possibility for the black and gold. Sorry, Joel. Now, coming up here, Daniel Jeremiah's pick has gotten some controversy in Steelers Nation because of the position that he ends up picking here. I'll let you guys know who he has the Steelers taking in his latest mock draft. But before we get into that, if you guys want to check out our friends at Fanatics, they are currently pre-sailing DK Metcalf Steelers jerseys on their website. You can go to chatsports.com/DK to pre-order your Steelers DK Metcalf jersey today. He's going to be wearing the number 4. And it really does help out the channel, guys, if you get your DK Metcalf through this source, because if you click our link, chatsports.com/DK, and you make a purchase, Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds to help us keep the lights on, improve our graphics, buy new equipment, do all the stuff that we need to do here at Chat Sports to continue to get you guys the best damn Steelers coverage money can buy, 100% free every single day. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. So Daniel Jeremiah has the Steelers taking quarterback Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss with his in his latest NFL mock draft. And there's a lot of people that really like Jackson Dart and are perfectly fine with this pick. There's a lot of people that don't really love Jackson Dart, and especially in the first round. Now, I think the reality of the situation here, guys, is that if the Pittsburgh Steelers strike out on Aaron Rodgers and they don't want to bring back Russell Wilson and they're dead set on that in free agency, then round 1 quarterback is absolutely a real possibility, because as much as Steelers fans might like Mason Rudolph, I don't think that he is a legitimate long-term answer at the position. And I think the Steelers would want to get the future of the position in-house this year if they're unable to land either Rodgers or Russ in free agency. And Dart does fit what the Pittsburgh Steelers tend to look for in their starting quarterbacks. I mean, he compares a lot to Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. And Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that the Steelers are trying to emulate in their team-building philosophy right now. So Dart has excellent touch down the field. He's a really good deep ball thrower. Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith want to create an offense that is run-heavy, but then uses a lot of play action and throws the ball down the field to their deep threats in DK Metcalf and George Pickens. I think that Jackson Dart's ability to throw the ball down the field with touch, accuracy, and efficiency is something that they will find attractive. And apparently, according to some reports, the Steelers are very high on Jackson Dart right now. And I do think that he is somebody that at least, Steelers fans need to get comfortable with the idea of the Steelers potentially taking in round one, even though I do think it would be a bit of a reach. Then, speaking of quarterbacks in the first round, Dane Brugler, another NFL draft analyst from The Athletic that I really respect, also has the Steelers going quarterback, but he has Shedeur Sanders from Colorado falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. And, I think that somebody is going to probably reach on Shedeur Sanders because I do have a late first-round grade on him. And I wouldn't spend a top 5 or a top 10 pick on Shedeur Sanders, but hey, the Cleveland Browns are going to Cleveland Brown, right? So they're probably going to end up taking Shedeur Sanders at number 2 overall, passing on really, really high-end talents like Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter in the process. But I do have serious concerns about Shedeur, specifically in the AFC North and specifically here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't think he has a great NFL arm. So I don't really love that for a team that plays in the cold and in the wind and in the rain and in the elements. I don't love that. And then I think that another key weakness in his game is he doesn't throw with a lot of anticipation. I think he's a good mental processor, and he can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and get to his check down, but he has to see his wide receivers get open, and that's something you just can't have in the National Football League, especially if you have a below-average arm. So I think that Sanders has really high bust potential, and I honestly wouldn't love him here in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. I think that's somebody that you do need to keep your eye on, though, especially if the Steelers trade down in round one, is probably Tyler Shough out of Louisville. All right, Shough has already gotten a top 30 visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they probably met with him at the NFL Combine this year in Indianapolis, and he kind of fits what the Steelers would be looking for too. Like Jackson Dart, he can throw that deep ball. He's fantastic within structure. He's arguably the best mental processor in this entire class. He's really, really accurate to all levels of the field. Tyler Shough, I think, is maybe the most pro-ready quarterback in this entire class, maybe besides Cam Ward. And I think that if the Steelers are looking for somebody to start pretty quickly for them and to be successful, Tyler Shough may give them the best chance to do that in his rookie season. So pick a quarterback for me down there in the comment section. If you got to take a quarterback in round one, if you're the Steelers, which one are you taking? Type SS for Shedeur Sanders, JD for Jackson Dart, or TS for Tyler Shough. In just a second here, we're going to be talking about some of the other NFL mock drafts and who they have the Steelers taken. But before we get into that, let me know which quarterback you would like the Steelers to take if they have to take a quarterback. Then we get into Pro Football Focuses here with Trevor Sikkema, their lead NFL draft analyst, who has the Steelers taking Matthew Golden, the speedster wide receiver out of Texas. Now, Golden is a big play machine. He is a fantastic downfield threat. He's a great route runner. He can track the ball incredibly well down the field. And because of those reasons, I think he should be gone before pick number 21. In fact, there's rumors that he might be the first wide receiver taken overall, and he might end up being a top 10 pick. So I think Golden, because of the fast 40 time that he had this year, along with his tape, his after the catch ability, all the things that he brings to the table, I would be surprised if he's available for the Steelers when they're picking at number 21. And then also Ryan Wilson from CBS, their lead NFL draft analyst there, has the Steelers going wide receiver as well. He has them projected to take Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Now, I think Burden is very gettable, all right? Like, you look at all the guys from ESPN, even NFL Network, they have Burden falling out of the first round entirely. So I think that the chances that Luther Burden III, maybe the most dynamic playmaker in space at the wide receiver position in this entire class, is going to be available for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when it comes to wide receiver, I'm not sure, unless they end up trading George Pickens, I don't think wide receiver is going to be a priority early on in the NFL draft. And the reason for that is that this is an offense that wants to be very run-heavy. They already have a top 2 wide receiver duo in DK Metcalf and George Pickens, and they do like their supplementary receiver options. They like Calvin Austin III. They like Roman Wilson. All right, so if they hang on to George Pickens, I think the chances of them drafting a wide receiver in round 1 go down close to 0, and the only way that I think that it becomes a possibility again is if they do end up trading away George Pickens, which isn't an impossibility, but I do think is unlikely at this point in time. Then the final mock draft that we're going to be talking about on today's show is Bucky Brooks from NFL Network, who has the Steelers taking Omarion Hampton, the running back, out of North Carolina. Now, what I'll say here, guys, is do not sleep on the Steelers taking this guy if he falls to number 21. All right, Hampton is an absolute stud at the running back position. He had over 1,200 yards rushing last year after contact, all right? He had like a full season's worth of yardage last year after he was contacted. So if you're looking for somebody that is able to shed tackles, that is able to get a lot of yardage after contact, this is Omarion Hampton, man. He's got really good acceleration, really good long speed, and like his foot speed is really, really special, man. It really is for somebody at his size. He reminds me a lot of Joe Mixon, and because the Steelers are trying to have as heavy of a run game as they want, like the Steelers want to have a run game like the Eagles, the 49ers, the Ravens, where they can run the football when the defense knows that they're running the football and still have success. In order to do that, you got to build up this offensive line right, and you got to get the right running back, all right? You got to have like a superstar level running back in that room. And as much as I like the running back prospects on day 2 and day 3 in this year's draft class, the chances you're going to get a day 1 superstar in the later rounds is definitely less likely than if you go out and get a guy like Omarion Hampton, who I think is ready to go right away to be a number 1 running back and to be a workhorse in the National Football League. So keep your eye on Omarion Hampton in round 1. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should running back be on the table in round 1 for your Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me, if it's Ashton Jeanty or Omarion Hampton, I'm in. If it's anybody else, I'm out. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's mock draft roundup for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now for more extensive Steelers draft coverage all throughout the 2025 offseason. All right, so our first segment in the book here, Mr. Cooperstein, and now we're moving forward to our next segment coming up, which is going to be quarterback targets. So I'm going to be getting into my full scouting reports on Shedeur Sanders, on Jackson Dart, on Tyler Shough, and I'm going to let you guys know these guys' strengths, these guys' weaknesses, everything that you guys need to know about these quarterbacks. I've watched the film. I've broken down the numbers for you guys, so you don't have to, all right? So all you have to do is watch this upcoming segment. And we've got over 382 people watching live, over 100 likes already. Thank you guys so much for stopping by here on Steelers Talk this afternoon. And, of course, we are still waiting on an Aaron Rodgers decision. No one knows when it's going to be coming, but according to Adam Schefter, it could take a while before we get an Aaron Rodgers decision. But no matter when that decision comes, we'll be right back here live on Steelers Talk to give you guys all the latest surrounding that. And, of course, we'll be giving away a Steelers jersey. All right, we'll be giving away a Steelers jersey on that live show whenever Aaron Rodgers decides to come out of his hole or out of the darkness retreat, whatever you want to say there, Producer Coop. And you're just getting the super chat? Oh, yeah, so we got some super chats here that we'll get to before our next segment. Some super chats did come in. And it doesn't look like we got any Venmos or Cashapp, so we're still waiting on the Super Chats. Like I said, this is a brand new studio that has just been set up here at Chat Sports, so we're hoping that the software is up to speed. If it's not, we'll just go into our next segment and hope that the Super Chats are caught up by then. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sounds good. So we'll get those super chats up here in just 1 second. I want to give a big shout out to all the people in the chat right now. We got Nathan Barker, Gary Frank, Seville. We got Brock Walker. We got JK. We got Jack. We got Loney. We got Ryan. It says Jackson Dart is Pittsburgh's new quarterback. And I will say here, Coop, we do have a live poll up on screen right now. If you had to take a quarterback in round 1, which quarterback would you prefer? Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, or Tyler Shough? The leading vote getter, Jackson Dart at 50% of the vote. Second place is Shedeur Sanders at 32%, and Tyler Shough at 17%. So Steelers fans, Rock Ross says, should we get a rookie or Aaron? I mean, I would love to get both. I would love to get Aaron Rodgers in here, and then if you can get Jalen Milroe at a nice value, I think that is like a really
ideal.
That's a really ideal situation there because you're getting a guy with a ton of upside in Jalen Milroe, and because you're bringing in Rodgers most likely for 2 years, Coop, you can let him sit for 2 years behind one of the greatest football minds of all time while he can develop. And then you have Mason Rudolph for 2 years as a really high-quality QB2, and you don't even have to think about putting Jalen Milroe in there.
Yeah, he would basically just sit 2 years and learn from two veterans who know the Steelers system, they know how to play quarterback in the NFL, and Milroe does need some refining and developing. So,
but he ran a
4.37.
That's what Bama posted. Apparently, a lot of scouts there said it was more 4.44, 4.45, but that's still really fast. All right,
So Bama was lying?
Bama apparently was lying.
Oh, no.
But, 4.44, even if that is the time, is really, really good for a quarterback, guys. My man Justin,
What up, Justin?
Your jersey is on its way, Justin. Says, how long until Steelers give up weight?
I don't think anytime soon.
Here's my answer, all right? I don't agree with this answer. I said on today's AM video that I would give him the rest of the week and then sign Russell Wilson if I don't get an answer. I think the Steelers are willing to wait till the draft.
You think they'll let it go all the way to the draft?
I think they'll wait until the draft. I think after the draft they'll cut it off, though.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that
But let's say they get to day one of the draft and he isn't signed. Would they consider quarterback at 21?
Yes.
I think so, too.
If they don't have Aaron Rodgers under contract by the draft, they will probably take a quarterback in round 1. And you know what? I would prefer them to trade down and get an extra pick before they reach on a quarterback like Jackson Dart or Tyler Shough. And honestly, 21 might be even a reach in my opinion for Shedeur Sanders. So if they do get a quarterback in round 1, I would much prefer them to trade down. But that's just me. $2 from Luke says, "Who do you guys have in March Madness?" I'm sorry, man. I went kind of chalk.
Nothing wrong with that.
I went with Duke.
I went with the Florida Gators.
Yeah, because you're a Florida kind of homie, though.
A little bit. Yeah, they're my second team.
I hate Duke, but they're just so good both offensively and defensively. I just think they have the best chance.
Neither of us took Clemson, except producer Chip did.
I did take Clemson.
Well, to win, I mean.
Well, yeah. I have Clemson going to the Sweet 16, so that's not a great look for me.
Eagles now producer Chip had Clemson winning it all. He is a Clemson alum. Probably not intelligent by him.
Well, he's an idiot. So Jeffrey Black, my man, coming
Shout
in
out
with
Jeffrey
a 5.
Black.
Shout out to Jeffrey. Thank you so much. Coop likes your name a lot. By the way. $2 from Matthew Cohen says, "Should we sign Matthew Judon?" No, they should not. He stinks, and the Steelers already have 3 outside linebackers that they love, T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig.
Is he kind of cooked now?
Yeah, he had a terrible season last year. $2 from Gary Frank says, "I think Rodgers is Vikings' second option." Who do you think's their first option, Gary? That's my question.
This is an old one.
Oh, that's an old one?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The Gary Frank one's an old one? All right. So is that all right now?
I think it is.
All right. So if you guys have a question and you want to get it on the show, in between segments, we answer Super Chat questions. So if you want to put in a question, if you want to say who you want the Steelers to take in round 1, whatever, make sure you guys send those in. And, of course, we're giving away a Steelers jersey whenever Aaron Rodgers finally decides to make a decision. So if you guys want to get in on that jersey raffle, it's $20. Super Chat gets you 1 raffle ticket. $20 Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal gets you 2 raffle tickets to win that jersey. All right. So if you guys want to get in on the raffle, $20 to get in. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. Now we're on to our next segment, early round quarterback targets for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Coop says 1 moment. Oh, Coop's got to change his headset here because we're in a new studio. They don't have a producer mic in here, so he has 2 different headsets that he has to juggle through. All right, Coop says we are good, so let's get into it right now. Some early round quarterback targets, full scouting reports on Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, and more coming your way right now. It's a reality right now, guys, and it's a possibility that the Pittsburgh Steelers could be taking a quarterback in round 1, round 2, or round 3 in the NFL draft here in 2025, especially if they can't land Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. So today, I'm going to be breaking down my full scouting reports on guys like Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, and more. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because you're not going to find better Steelers draft coverage anywhere else on YouTube. We got in-depth prospect analysis like we're going to be doing today, positional rankings at all the top positions of need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then also we have a weekly 7-round mock draft on this channel where I break down new players every single week, projecting them to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a 7-round mock draft every single week, guys. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. So I will start the video off with this. I'd rather not use a first-round pick on a quarterback, all right? This is not a very good quarterback class, traditionally speaking. And I think that I would rather get a high-producing player as a rookie at a different position, all right, like defensive tackle, running back, corner, something like that, where I think that you can get some really highly impactful players in the first round this year, and I'd rather not reach on a quarterback in round one. However, if the Steelers miss out on Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or both in the NFL free agency this year, round one quarterback becomes a very real possibility because Mason Rudolph, for as much as I'm glad that he's back, is not a viable long-term option. So the Steelers are going to have to really shift their focus to the future if they cannot get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson in free agency this year. And, before we get into all the names and all the scouting reports today, I just want to let you guys know we're not going to be talking about Cam Ward today. It seems like a foregone conclusion at this point in time that the Tennessee Titans will be selecting him number 1 overall, and they are not considering moving down in the NFL draft. So Cam Ward, probably going to be the number 1 overall pick, so we're not even going to talk about him today. But somebody that could fall, somebody that has been sliding down draft boards as of late, that could maybe make it to the Steelers at number 21, is the first guy that we'll talk about here, and that is Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. All right, and I will say that I think that he has a pretty decent chance of being a decent NFL starting quarterback. All right, so we'll start with the positives with Shedeur Sanders. I really like his mental processing. His ability to get from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 is pretty impressive. He can make a full progression read. He snaps that head from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. He gets to his check down. That is all there and ready to go for NFL play. He's got the mental processing chops. Second thing that I like about him is that he's got a very quick and clean release. You can tell that he has been coached at an extremely high level. He's got a very, very smooth release, really good throwing mechanics, which lead to very consistent accuracy, specifically to the short and intermediate levels of the field. He is pinpoint accurate to the short and intermediate levels, and he's pretty accurate to the deep portion of the field. And the thing that I really appreciate about Shedeur, guys, is his ball placement, all right? And, it's one thing to be able to throw the ball accurately and give your guys opportunities to make plays. It's another thing to know which shoulder to throw to protect your wide receivers, to understand coverage, understand leverage, and to understand where to put the football when you're throwing it to your wide receiver. Shedeur Sanders understands that probably better than anybody in this class, maybe other than Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. Now, another thing that I really like about Shedeur is that he's used to pressure, all right? That offensive line in Colorado was abysmal. So he was constantly under pressure. So he's kind of gotten a little bit of a taste of life in the National Football League behind a bad offensive line where he had to deal with pressure a lot. And to his credit, he might be the best quarterback in this entire class at managing pressure. All right, when pressure gets in his face quickly, he knows how to make a guy miss. He knows where and when to step up or out of the pocket to keep a play alive. And his numbers under pressure are the best out of any quarterback in this class for a reason. Another thing is that he's very good at blitz recognition. He understands when the defense is trying to light him up. He understands how to get his offensive line and his running back in the right protection to block against that blitz, and then he knows where the pressure is coming from. So that's something that I like about Shedeur Sanders as well. I like his throwing on the run, too. I think that's something that's underrated about him is actually his out-of-structure playmaking. When he gets outside the pocket and he's on the run, he is maybe the most accurate passer of the football on the run in this entire class. And then he pairs that with some pretty decent playmaking instincts. When he's outside the pocket, he keeps his eyes downfield, and his vision is generally pretty good to find an open receiver down the field. And then the last thing that I want to mention here, guys, is that there's a lot of pressure that comes along with being an NFL starting quarterback. And there's also a lot of pressure involved with being Deion Sanders' son. And being in that kind of role and being in that national spotlight for as long as he has been, and to handle it the way that he has and to play the way that he has, it is impressive. All right, so he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers with a ton of pressure from this fan base. I think that he would be perfectly fine taking on that pressure and running with it. Now, some negatives. All right, the first thing that you have to keep in mind with Shedeur is that when it comes to NFL starting quarterback standards, he's got a below-average NFL arm. Now, I think it's slightly stronger than guys like Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa, who are successful starters in the National Football League. But, he's going to have to kind of match them in anticipation and in mental processing, which is going to be very, very difficult to do. His arm is below the NFL average when it comes to starting quarterbacks. And then I think that what really concerns me about Shedeur is he pairs that below average NFL arm strength with a lack of anticipation on his film. Now, you might be saying at home, Jack, you just said that he's a really good mental processor. What the heck? Well, there's a difference between mental processing and anticipation, where Shedeur can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and get through a full field progression read. But the thing is that he usually has to wait for his wide receiver to break open before he throws the football. And usually in the NFL, if you have a limited arm and you lack anticipation, that means you're going to throw a lot of interceptions, especially if you're throwing over the middle of the field, where Shedeur likes to throw a lot of his passes. I also think that he holds the ball for too long for a guy that threw as many RPOs and screens as he did last year. When you watch his film, if he's going through a full field progression read, he's holding on to the ball for a little bit too long, all right? And that has a little bit to do with his lack of anticipation, where he's not getting rid of the football with that anticipation. He's waiting for his wide receiver to break open, which adds a little bit of extra time before he gets rid of the football. But his average time to throw compared to his average depth of target is not something that is ideal that you want to see from a college quarterback heading into the National Football League. And that kind of goes into the college-y offense here that he played with there under Pat Shurmur with the Colorado Buffaloes. It's a lot of screens. It's a lot of RPOs. It's a lot of manufactured completions, which is why his completion percentage is so darn high. And then there's the issue of the upside when it comes to Mr. Shedeur Sanders, where he's a good but not great athlete. He can wiggle a little bit. He can get outside the pocket and run if you need him to, but he's not a dynamic threat with his legs. So he doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't anticipate open space particularly well, and he's not a great rusher of the football. So there's not a whole lot of high-end traits physically that point to a high upside overall. There's nothing there to say that Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 5 or top 10 quarterback in the National Football League, where it's more like in the top 12 to top 20 range is kind of where his ceiling is, in my opinion, which is why I have a late round 1, early round 2 grade on Shedeur Sanders. Now, I think his floor is generally high because he is accurate, because he is a decent mental processor. He can get outside the pocket. He manages pressure well. Like we talked about, there's a lot of things to like about Shedeur Sanders, but the lack of physical gifts, along with the lack of anticipation, I think really do limit his overall upside. And, my pro comp for him is Teddy Bridgewater. And there's nothing wrong with Teddy Bridgewater. He was a good starter in this league for a long time. But he was never really an elite caliber guy, all right? You got to have a good run game around him. You got to surround him with a good defense. You got to surround him with good receiving weapons. All those things are musts for Mr. Shedeur Sanders, and you got to have an offensive play caller that's capable of scheming things open for him. And personally, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would not want to trade up for him. And the reason for that is because of the arm strength. I think that, playing in the AFC North with a weak arm for NFL standards is not something that's ideal, because you got to throw in the wind and the rain and the snow and in the elements. And then I also don't love the fact that he doesn't have the anticipation on his film that I would want, which I think is going to lead to a lot of interceptions, particularly early on in his career. But my guess is somebody will reach on him in the top 5 or at least the top 10. My guess would be the Cleveland Browns, just because the Browns are known for making these crucial mistakes at the quarterback position. And I think drafting Shedeur Sanders would be a mistake for the Cleveland Browns. So if I had to guess right now, I would have to guess that Shedeur Sanders is on his way to Cleveland. But take a guess for me down there in the comments section. What's the % chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers draft a quarterback in round 1 this year? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance they take a quarterback, to 100, meaning they are definitely taking a quarterback. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And while I'm talking about PrizePicks, go down there, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and give me a number between 0 and 100. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action on your phone. You can download it on your phone right now, 100% free. Join over 10 million members and sign up today. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. If you're wondering how this works, guys, all you have to do is download the PrizePicks app today, go into all the different stat projections that they have for basketball, for baseball, for even NASCAR, mixed martial arts, whatever you guys want to get a play in for on PrizePicks, they have it. You pick 2 to 6 stat projections. You pick more than or less than, and if you can get them all right, or if you do a flex play, you get most of them right, you can come away with some money with our friends at PrizePicks today. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So next up here, let's talk about Jackson Dart, because this is the guy that has been really the most heavily linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers in round 1, and it's the guy that I would say might be the most polarizing quarterback in Steelers Twitter right now. Really seems like you either love him or you hate him. So let's talk about the reasons why you should be loving Jackson Dart. First one is he's got some good arm strength, all right? I would say it's a B+ to A- arm in the NFL. It's stronger than Shedeur Sanders, and he can push that ball to all levels of the field, and he pairs that with really good accuracy. You can make an argument that Jackson Dart is the most generally accurate quarterback out of any quarterback in this class. I think Shedeur Sanders is the most accurate to short and intermediate levels of the field, but when you add on deep accuracy, I think you have an argument to be made that it's actually Jackson Dart who is consistently on time and on target. Then also, he provides some really good touch down the field. Now, Shedeur Sanders, I should mention too, also can throw with some nice touch, but Jackson Dart's, his ability to arc that football, drop it in the bucket down the sideline is exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers love in their starting quarterbacks. Just ask Russell Wilson. Then the deep ball efficiency overall was really, really good there with Ole Miss over the last several seasons. They had a lot of deep threats there, and his ability to throw it down there, complete passes, and get big chunks is something that I think the Steelers will absolutely find attractive in his game. He's also a plus rusher. Now, I won't say that he's a dynamic rusher, but he is somebody that can go out there and wiggle a little bit, and he can find some open space, and if you give him space to run, he will pick up some yardage. He also flashes some anticipation on his film. He does show the ability to anticipate open route concepts. I think his anticipation is better than Shedeur Sanders's at this point. Also, mental processing flashes are there, I would say, because this is a very college-y offense and a lot of one read to run or one read to check down type of offense. He didn't get to show that off all that much, but especially in the middle of last season, he did show some ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and get through a full field progression read. So I guess we'll have to see if that's going to be something that translates to the next level. And I really like his competitive toughness, man. Like, you can tell watching the film that he's the type of guy that players love to play for and with. And I think that's something that is going to be attractive to head coach Mike Tomlin. Now let's get into the negatives. The first thing is that his mental processing does have questions because he didn't do it all that often at Ole Miss. Like, Lane Kiffin really schemes a lot of stuff open for him. It's a very college-y offense, and, it's a lot of stuff open on his first read. So he wasn't really asked to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 all that often, and, I think that he did show the capability of doing that from time to time, but he just didn't do it very often. So it's going to be very important for the Steelers to get him in front of a whiteboard and kind of figure out how fast this guy thinks. Another thing that is a negative on his profile is the pocket presence. And this is something that I think really limits his upside, is that I do not like his pocket presence at all. His feel for pressure, his feel for when he should step up or out of the pocket is not very good whatsoever. He'll drift into pressure, which I don't love. So that is a big negative on my profile for him. Also, his decision-making can be very inconsistent, particularly in the clutch. Last year in that game against the Florida Gators, he had 3 abysmal turnover-worthy throws, right? He had 2 interceptions, and it should have been three interceptions, if we're being completely honest, and they were all boneheaded decisions. There are a lot of decisions on Jackson Dart's film where it's like, what the hell are you even thinking here, man? The guy's triple covered. Why are you throwing this football? And that is a big concern for a guy like Mike Tomlin, who doesn't like quarterbacks to throw interceptions. And then we get to the offense, like I talked about. It's a lot of screens, it's a lot of RPOs, and it's a lot of stuff that is just schemed wide open on his first read. That's not going to happen in the National Football League. He's going to have to prove that he can mentally process a defense both pre and post snap every single Sunday at a high level if he wants to be a full-time starter in this league. And then he also lacks elite level upside, just like Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. And, I think that his upside is something along the lines of like a Derek Carr, where he doesn't have very good pocket presence, but he's got very good accuracy. He can throw the ball down the field with touch. Like, I honestly think that his profile to Derek Carr is actually pretty similar. I'll tell you who my real pro comp is for him here in just a second. But my grade on him is I got a round 2 grade on Jackson Dart. All right, and if the Steelers took him in round 2, if they still had their second-round pick, I'd be okay with that, and I'd be really okay with it if they took him in round 3. He's got some starter tools. He's got an NFL arm. He can throw the ball down the field. I think he fits kind of the profile of what the Steelers want in their starting quarterback. But I think that he definitely has areas that he needs to grow and prove himself. And he reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts when he was coming out of Oklahoma. He was not a perfect prospect coming out of the Sooners, all right? He had significant accuracy issues, mental processing issues. He did not have very good pocket presence like Jackson Dart. And, their profiles are very, very similar. Now, I think Hurts is slightly faster than Dart is, but I think that Dart's skill set can fit with what the Pittsburgh Steelers want in their starting quarterback of the future, which is why if they don't get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, Dart is absolutely somebody that you have to keep your eye on in round 1. Now, my concern with him is that even if he hits, I'm not sure he's going to be anything more than just a good NFL starter, similar to Shedeur Sanders, which is why I have a similar grade on Sanders as I do Jackson Dart. But both of those guys absolutely have the upside to be decent NFL starters if they find the right home. But now let's talk about somebody that I'm pretty high on. I'm probably lower on Jackson Dart and lower on Shedeur Sanders than a lot of people are. I'm higher on Tyler Shough than most people are out of Louisville. Now, this guy, we'll talk about his negatives here in just a second, but there's so many positives about his film. I just want to gush about him for a little bit here. Okay, number 1, he's the best mental processor in this class. His ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 as quickly as he does, it's pro ready. All right, his ability to make good decisions while processing that information is really, really good as well, both pre and post snap. He is the most complete mental processor in this class. All right, then number 2. His arm strength and talent is really good as well. An A- NFL arm, so it's not like Mahomes or Allen or Anthony Richardson, but it's very, very good NFL arm. And he can throw it from multiple platforms and arm angles. If you need him to throw a little sidearm, he's more than capable of doing that as well, which is something that I'm a big fan of. Then also, he's got really quick and clean mechanics, all right, both with his lower body, with his pocket footwork, and with his upper body mechanics. Super fluid, super repeatable mechanics lead to good accuracy as well for Mr. Tyler Shough. And he is right up there with Jackson Dart as the most accurate quarterback in this class. And I would probably give Shough the slight advantage over Jackson Dart in terms of who is the most generally accurate quarterback in this class. All right, he's really, really good in that regard because of his repeatable mechanics. Then where, Shedeur Sanders really struggles with anticipation and Jackson Dart shows flashes, we see it all over Tyler Shough's film. All right, his anticipation is really, really something special, especially within structure. He sees what the defense wants to do. He sees the coverage that they're in. He understands when his receivers are going to break open, and he lets that thing rip before the defense can respond. Another thing that I really love about Tyler Shough is that his touch passing, particularly on his deep ball, is phenomenal. All right, super, super good touch. Dropping it out of a helicopter multiple times a game. Most of the time it's being dropped by the terrible wide receiver core there in Louisville. But, the throws are the throws, and throws are on the money. The deep ball efficiency is really, really good with his ability to put that thing on a dime. The Steelers want to throw a lot of deep passes. Tyler Shough is probably the best deep ball thrower in this class. Maybe other than Jackson Dart, but those two guys are very, very close. Then you get to the fact that he's used to pressure, all right? That offensive line at Louisville was terrible. One of the worst in in all of college football last year. He was constantly under pressure, so he kind of understands what it's like to be an NFL quarterback, and pressure is constantly coming at you. And just like Shedeur Sanders, his ability to recognize the blitz is phenomenal. He knows what the defense is trying to do to him. Very good pre-snap processor like we talked about before. And then he operated a pro-style offense there at Louisville. So he was in charge of setting protections, making checks at the line of scrimmage, doing all the things that NFL quarterbacks are asked to do. He did it, and did it at a high level last year with the Louisville Cardinals, all right? So I think that he might be the most pro-ready quarterback in this entire class because of all these positives, but there is a reason why I have a round 2 grade on Tyler Shough, And the first negative is his age. He's going to be 26 in September. So he's got a very short runway to prove that he can be a starting quarterback in this league. It's not like Jackson Dart where he's 22 years old and he has multiple years to prove himself. Jackson Dart has to be good, and he has to be good immediately in order to prove himself as a starter. Number 2, injury concerns. He's broken his collarbone twice, and he's broken his fibula in his leg. All right, so some pretty significant injuries there. He was able to stay healthy for the entire season last year, even though he took some big shots, so that's encouraging, but the injury concerns are certainly still there. Then the final thing is pressure management. I think, like we talked about, he was under pressure a lot, but his numbers under pressure were not very good. Now, part of that is he had to just throw the ball away because the pressure was in his face immediately a lot. A lot of times he threw really nice passes under pressure, and the guys just dropped it. That's how bad his supporting cast was there at the Louisville Cardinals last year. But there's no doubt about it, his numbers within structure and not pressured versus pressured, it's a big difference, all right? So that is something to keep in mind on Tyler Shough's profile. My pro comp for him is I think he's a more talented Mac Jones. Very fast processor, taller guy. He's got a quick release, but he's got a way stronger arm than Mac Jones does, in my opinion. He's a much better athlete. He ran a 4.64 40-yard dash at the combine, which is pretty darn good for a guy his size, and his arm talent is way better than Mac Jones. You're not seeing Mac Jones drop it down and making a sidearm pass. You're seeing that from Tyler Shough. So I think that Shough, similar profile to Mac Jones, who was a first-round pick, by the way, and I think that he's more talented than he was. So I think that Shough is probably the most pro-ready prospect out of all the guys we've talked about today. His mental processing, the fact that he played in a pro-style system, I think means that if the Steelers want somebody to play right away and compete for the starting job immediately and to start for this team and try to take this team to the playoffs and maybe even win a playoff game immediately, I think the guy out of the guys we've talked about today, the person that's most likely to do that is Tyler Shough out of Louisville. Now take your QB1. If you had to pick a quarterback in round 1, which guy are you taking? Type SS for Shedeur Sanders, JD for Jackson Dart, or TS for Tyler Shough. For me personally, if I had to take one, I'm going to be taking the kid out of Louisville, Tyler Shough, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Now, before I go, I do want to talk about one more quarterback that I think could be a big-time target for the Pittsburgh Steelers that they might be very interested in, and that is Alabama's Jalen Milroe. All right, now, I don't think he'd be in consideration for round 1, which is why I didn't go completely in-depth into his scouting report today. But I do want to talk about him because I think that he could be a quarterback target for the Steelers, even if they get Aaron Rodgers or even if they bring back Russell Wilson, because Jalen Milroe is the type of guy that's going to have to sit at least 1 year, probably 2 years before you even think about starting him. But his ceiling is astronomical, all right? He apparently just ran a 4.37 at his Alabama Pro Day. Now, there's some scouts that said it was 4.44 or 4.45, so keep that in mind. But even those times are excellent for him. He's got incredible arm strength. He's got some really high-end tape in terms of throwing the ball down the field. He has some big-time throws on his film. Now, he's a true one-read-to-run quarterback. He's not very accurate, and he needs to do a much better job with his mental processing and decision-making. But that's exactly the issues that Malik Willis had coming out, and he was a third-round pick, plus Milroe is significantly bigger than Malik Willis is. So that's my pro comp for him. Malik Willis has not turned into a starting quarterback in the National Football League, and it's very possible Jalen Milroe does not end up a starting quarterback in the National Football League, but the upside is absolutely there, which is why the Steelers should consider him. And then another guy that I would say keep your eye on day 3, if the Steelers haven't taken a quarterback by the first 2 days of the draft, Will Howard out of Ohio State has a good deep ball, throws with some good touch. He's got some great size and plus athleticism. So if the Steelers are going to take a day 3 dart throw on a guy, my best bet would be Will Howard. So let me know down there in the comments section, when is the right time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft a quarterback this year? Type 1, 2, or 3. Day 1 is round 1. Day 2 is rounds 2 and 3. And then day 3 is rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. Or if you think that they shouldn't draft a quarterback at all, just type none for me down there in the comment section. I know today was a little bit of a longer one, guys. It was very in-depth, breaking down Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough in detail. But I hope you guys got some good information out of it. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more nerdy, in-depth videos like this one on the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day. I don't even know how long that was, Coop. I know it was a little bit of a beast, but
It was a little too long, but that's okay. It happens.
It was 20, 25, 27, 30. Oh, my God, a 30-minute cut. I mean, the watch time's going to be crazy on that one right there, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I had to get a drink in there. That might be the longest Steelers Talk VOD I have ever filmed.
That was wild.
It was a pretty long one. Brian,
by the way, Clemson came all the way back, lost by 2.
Oh, my God, Clemson. Dude, how great. I had them winning. That would have been great news if they would have come back.
I heard, like, during the segment, they go, oh, when they hit a 3, and I was watching here. It was sick.
Unbelievable. $2 super chat from Brian says, thoughts on Pitt's interest in Giddens and Milroe. I think that they're very interested in both, Coop. You got a guy in DJ Giddens out of Kansas State who is the only running back so far, and actually the only player that we know of that has had a top 30 visit and had a formal combine meeting at the combine. So the Steelers are showing a lot of interest in DJ Giddens, and I can see why. His one cut ability is among the best in the class this year. So if you're looking for like a round 3 running back, Giddens is certainly somebody that I think the Steelers will have their eye on. And then when it comes to Jalen Milroe, obviously they had dinner with him in Tuscaloosa before his pro day. Now they also had dinner with a bunch of other Alabama prospects. It wasn't just Jalen Milroe. But, you know, he kind of showed out at his pro day, man. 4.37 is legit speed. If the Steelers are looking to develop somebody, I could certainly see Milroe being a guy that they like.
I agree, yeah. Well, Milroe would be my guy if they get to round 4 and they haven't picked a quarterback yet.
And, you know, and of course, like, if they don't get Rodgers or Russ, I don't want Milroe.
No, I agree.
Milroe is my guy if they get Rodgers or Russ.
He has to be your QB3 for 2 years.
What's that?
He has to be your QB3 for 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zeth Peterson said, did we keep the O-line coach from last season? Zeth, unfortunately, we did.
Unfortunately.
He stinks.
Unfortunately, Pat Meyer is back, Zeth, and he stinks.
He's a joke.
So hopefully he can turn it around. Hopefully he finds some sort of guru to help him magically be a better coach. But
Yinzer Jake says, I just want a QB who can see over the OL.
I mean, that's
you're making height jokes on Russ?
I guess so. We do have a Cashapp here.
Sweet.
There we go. We'll get that Cashapp up here in just a second. Drake Johnson, my man, $10. Says, why not go with Rudolph? See if you can trade Pickens for a second-round pick and get your wide receiver, running back, and a defensive tackle in the draft and a quarterback next year. What do you think? So I think that this plan, Drake, stinks of, like, punting on the season. And I don't think Mike Tomlin is a big fan of that, to be frank. You know, I think that this plan is kind of like putting one foot into trying to win now and another foot in rebuilding.
Yeah.
I would rather them just go all in trying to win right now or go all in on a rebuild, and they're clearly not rebuilding. All right? If they were going to do a rebuild this year, I would have rather have them just fire Tomlin, trade TJ Watt and let somebody else pay him $40 million this season, trade Cam Hayward so he has a chance to win a Super Bowl somewhere else, trade Minkah Fitzpatrick, get a bunch of picks, a bunch of extra money, and then just completely reset. But the Steelers obviously aren't doing that, all right? They think that they're close. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. And with all due respect to Mason Rudolph, he has about a might have -% chance of winning a Super Bowl this year with the Steelers. With all due respect to Rudy. Like, I think that the very ceiling that the Steelers have with Rudolph as their quarterback this year is 10 wins, first-round exit in the playoffs as a wild card. And that's exactly where this team has been. So if you're trying to level up, if you're trying to make this team better, if you're trying to escape the mediocrity that this team has been at,
Rudy's not your guy.
Mason cannot be the guy heading into next year. Chris, $5, says, Jack, I agree that Shough is the best quarterback for the Steelers, but I wouldn't reach for him. We can draft our franchise quarterback next year, so no need to force it. I agree if you have Rodgers or Russ. But if you don't have either of those guys, you don't have any plan at quarterback for the future. And I think that if you don't have Rodgers or Russ, you're pretty much putting yourself in a position where you gotta take your favorite quarterback in this year's class that's available. And is it a little bit of a reach? Yeah. Would I prefer them to trade down and take Shough? 100%. All right. But like we talked about, Chris, if the Steelers are going to take a quarterback in round 1 and they're not going to trade down, and my choices are Shedeur Sanders, which probably won't be a choice, but let's just say he's available, Tyler Shough, or Jackson Dart, I think Shough is the most ready to play right now.
I just think it's funny we didn't talk about Quinn Ewers. Interesting.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers stinks. That's why we didn't talk about him. $20 from Gary Frank. Appreciate you, Mr. Gary. And he says, today for Giants sign Rodgers by Monday. F. Rodgers, take Russell Wilson now. So, Gary, I'd be okay if they went with Russell Wilson right now.
I'm in.
But the team clearly doesn't want to do that.
They do not.
And, depending on which reports you believe, the Steelers don't even want to bring back Russell Wilson, even if they don't get Rodgers.
That's kind of a joke.
Which would be a joke. I would rather have Russell Wilson than Mason Rudolph and a rookie. But apparently there are some offensive coaches, probably Arthur Smith, that really don't like Russell Wilson. So, right now it's Rodgers or we're kind of screwed. $2 from Justin Watson. Says, love the Rodgers vid, but Russ ain't coming back. I think there's a chance Russ comes back. He's still posting Steelers-related stuff on his IG. He's still working.
Wearing Steelers gear?
He's not. He's technically not wearing Steelers gear.
Oh, okay.
He's wearing
just Steelers colored.
Wearing colored gear, black and yellow. He's still working out in. So it appears that Russ would still like to come back. But the question is, would the Steelers want him back? Guys like Jerry Dulac, Mark Caboli have said that they would be open to Russell Wilson returning if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come here. But honestly, at this point, I can't believe any reporting on this football team because apparently they wanted Justin Fields back, and that didn't happen.
If Jerry Dulac says something, more often than not, the opposite happens. So just keep that in mind.
The only time I believe Jerry Dulac is when he's contradicting his own reporting.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Because last year, all of his reporting was, the Steelers are not interested in Russell Wilson. Then when his report came out, the Steelers are interested in Russell Wilson. It's like, all right, well, he's probably pretty sure of that because he's contradicting himself. Yep. Same thing happened this year. Steelers are not interested in Aaron Rodgers. First day of free agency. The Steelers are talking with Aaron Rodgers. That's how much of a joke Jerry Dulac is.
He's embarrassing.
He's a joke.
He's embarrassing.
All right, and the only time I believe him is when he's contradicting his own reporting. It's the only time
Jerry, if you're watching, get it together.
Jerry, if you're watching, maybe maybe try not being a mouthpiece for the team.
Stay off the golf course less, Jerry. You almost spit-taked there.
It's a good one. That was a good one right there, man. All right, man. If you guys continue to get those super chats in, we are about $45 away from 10 extra minutes at the end of the show here. So if someone wants to put in a 50, we'll extend the show by 10 minutes after this next segment. But let's get into this right now, man. My next mock draft. I haven't done a mock draft in 2 weeks. So it's been a little while since I've done a mock draft, but I kind of like this one this week, guys. My first mock draft, my first 7-round Steelers mock draft since the DK Metcalf trade is coming at you guys right now. It's my first Steelers mock draft on this channel since the DK Metcalf trade and after the Steelers' moves in NFL free agency. And today we've got 7 rounds for you guys, 6 picks. No trades. Can't wait to get into it with you guys here. But before we get into it, make sure you click that thumbs up icon. If you want more mock drafts, and if you want another mock draft next week, we need to get to at least 500 likes on today's show. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon. If you haven't already, help out the show, increase the algorithm, all that good stuff. And we greatly appreciate your support. So my rule throughout this offseason, guys, is whenever I do a mock draft, I'm not taking players that I took in previous mock drafts. The reason for that rule, guys, is because I want to put as many Steelers draft targets in front of you guys as possible. All right, I don't want to be talking about the same guys over and over and over again. So if there's a player that you really want the Steelers to take and they're not listed on today's show, I probably took them in a previous mock. So check out our other mocks on the channel after you watch this one. But this week, I'm also going to go no trades. I'll probably introduce a trade scenario next week, either trade down or trade up, probably a trade down scenario. But for this week, no trades for this particular mock draft. So we'll start here with maybe it's going to be a controversial pick because the last time I did a mock, I picked Jahdae Barron out of Texas to be the next slot corner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to take a different guy to play that role here in Malachi Starks, the DB out of Georgia. Now, you might be saying, but Jack, he's a safety. We don't need a safety. Well, guess what? Starks is a versatile weapon on defense, man. He can play in the slot. He can play in the box. He can play free safety. he can do a lot of different things, man. He reminds me a lot of Brian Branch, the star safety, defensive back extraordinaire, defensive weapon for the Detroit Lions. He's not the most athletic or fast player in the world, but he's got extremely fluid feet, and his football instincts are off the charts, man. He is a ball hawk. He's got incredible ball skills for a defensive back. And these Georgia players, man, they play in the slot. They play free safety. They play strong safety. They play all over the place there in Athens, all right? And I know Mike Tomlin is a big fan of Georgia Bulldog players, all right? They just traded up for one 2 seasons ago in the first round in Broderick Jones. And right now, the Steelers need a starting slot corner. With all due respect to Brandon Eccles and with all due respect to Beanie Bishop Jr., Malachi Starks can be a game-changing weapon on defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers on day one. And I think that that's the player that they should be kind of monitoring right now. So what say you guys? Would you be happy if Malachi Starks is the pick in round 1 for Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or a no on Malachi Starks. Then we have to go all the way to round 3 because the Steelers sent their second round pick to Seattle for DK Metcalf. And here I'm going to take DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State. Now, Giddens brings some really good size to the table. He's very tall, but for his size, he can move, man. 4.43 speed as a guy at his size is elite. His 10 and 20-yard splits are also elite. His explosiveness is incredible. And where I really like Giddens, guys, is his ability to get out in open space and make a guy miss. Like, his one-cut ability is as good as just about anybody in this class, even at his size. And that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for in their number 1 running back right now. All right, and right now, the Steelers are showing a ton of interest in him. All right, he's the only running back. In fact, he's the only player at this point in time that has had both a combine formal meeting with the Steelers and a top 30 visit in Pittsburgh. He's the only player. All right, there's been players with informal combine meetings and a top 30, but he's the only one with a formal and a top 30 visit. So the Steelers are obviously keeping close tabs on DJ Giddens, and I can see why. He'd be a perfect fit in this wide zone system. He can make a guy miss out in space. He is a big play waiting to happen, and he's got that 4.43 speed to hit home runs as well. I think Giddens is one of the more underrated running back prospects in this entire class, and if he's there in round 3, I think the Steelers could pull the trigger on him. So coming up here on Steelers Talk in this week's mock draft, my day 3 picks, round 4, round 5, round 6, and round 7 are all coming your way here in just 1 second. Another thing that's coming your way is DK Metcalf playing in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform next year. And you guys can get your very own DK Metcalf Steelers jersey with our friends at Fanatics right now when you go to chatsports.com/DK. They're currently on pre-sale, so if you want to pre-order your DK Metcalf jersey, it also helps out the channel. Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds when you use our link, so help us out right now. Help yourself out. Get your DK Metcalf jersey today by going to chatsports.com/DK. Here in round 4, at pick number 123, I'm going to take a nose tackle that I think could play right away as the Steelers starting nose tackle, and that is J.J. Peegs out of Ole Miss. Now, this is a player that really impressed me at the Shrine Bowl this year. I watched him in person, practice live, and his ability to move people is impressive, all right? And I would start him. You know, he's 325 pounds. He's a big boy. He's one of the better run defenders in this class, in my opinion, at nose tackle day 1. And that would allow me to put Keanu Benton where I think he's more suited to be a disruptive player at 3 technique as opposed to nose tackle where he has to take on double teams and be more of a run defender. I think that Peegs out of Ole Miss here is more suited to play that role, and that allows Benton to be at his best, and it also allows Cam Hayward to be at his best playing 5 technique, which is a 3-4 defensive end kind of role for the Steelers defense. Plus, he doubles as a giant fullback. He did some fullback work there at Ole Miss. I mean, I would love to see some big boy football on offense here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That Kenyon Green at fullback kind of stint, a couple of training camps ago was electric. I want to see this guy run tout the rock, be the refrigerator here with the Pittsburgh Steelers in short yardage situations. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and you get an insanely good run defender to be your nose tackle of the future. Now, I will say, guys, I did lie to you at the beginning of today's video. I am actually going to make a trade on today's show, but I'm not going to trade down and I'm not going to trade up. I'm going to trade for a player. All right, and the player I'm going to trade for here is I'm going to trade my round 5 pick for quarterback Joe Milton from the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots, they have Drake May, who is their quarterback of the future. They brought in Joshua Dobbs in free agency. He's going to be their backup quarterback. They are very clearly shopping Joe Milton, and I think that they will trade him at some point. And if I'm the Steelers and I'm sitting in round 5 and I'm choosing between guys like Will Howard and Kyle McCord, and, I got an option for Joe Milton, who is way more physically gifted than either of those guys, and he would cost the same pick to get them, I'm going to send that 5th-round pick to New England for Joe Milton because I think that Milton might have the strongest arm in the entire league, and that's not even a joke. Like, this guy's got a bazooka for an arm. He's extremely big for a quarterback at 235 pounds, and then he's explosive as all get out, and he runs a 4.62, which is an elite time for a quarterback. So you got the size, you've got the arm strength, you've got the rushing ability, and he showed some really good things with New England last year, both in the preseason and in the regular season finale, where he was allowed to play for most of that game for the New England Patriots. Now, granted, he played against the Bills' backups, but his mental processing looked so much better than it did at Tennessee. His accuracy looked so much better than it did at Tennessee. His pocket presence looked so much better than it did on his Tennessee film. He made significant strides in his first season in the NFL. And if I'm going to be banking a 5th-round pick on somebody that it could be like just a flyer at quarterback, I'd rather spend that 5th-round flyer on a guy that I've already seen has potential at the NFL level. So for me, I'm going to go with Joe Milton here. I'm going to trade that 5th-round pick. If New England is willing to come to the table, I'd rather have Joe Milton over any other quarterback the Steelers can get in round 5. Then in round 6, I'm going to take his former teammate there with the Tennessee Volunteers, and Dante Thornton Jr., a big body, big play threat on the outside that I think Mike Tomlin is falling in love with right now. The Steelers are showing this guy a lot of attention and a lot of love, and as you guys can see, this guy is a physical freak. He is tall. He is a contested catch demon, and he runs a 4.3 at his size, which is really, really rare, and his ability to stack and shed, his ball tracking ability is phenomenal. Now, he's more of just a true deep threat type of wide receiver, all right? He's not the best overall route runner. He's not going to be a slot. He's not going to be a route running technician. He's a true deep threat. But I think if you bring in Dante Thornton Jr., this is what the Steelers want to do. They have DK Metcalf and George Pickens. They want to throw the deep ball down the sideline, and that's exactly what Dante Thornton does best. And with George Pickens heading into the final year of his rookie contract, perhaps the Steelers could view Thornton, who you can get in round 6 at this point, as kind of like a backup policy in case George Pickens decides all of a sudden he wants to be traded after the draft. And then also if he walks in free agency in 2026, you got a guy in Dante Thornton that can be a really good deep threat for you heading into the 2026 season. So I think that this is an excellent insurance for the Pittsburgh Steelers at a big position for their offense, and I think it'd be a hell of a pick, especially if you want to run the deep ball type of passing offense the Steelers do. And then in round 7, I'm going to take one of my favorite sleeper prospects on the offensive line in this year's class, Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State. I thought he had a terrific Senior Bowl, was one of the better true guards at the Senior Bowl this year. And, with Isaac Seumalo heading into a contract year, maybe you want to bring him back, maybe you don't. Last year they brought in Mason McCormick to eventually replace James Daniels. Maybe they bring in Jackson Slater to eventually replace Isaac Seumalo. I think that Slater has some nice potential. And I think if you bring him in and you kind of give him an opportunity to grow within this offense, he might even be able to blossom a little bit here as a small school guy to be the next Mason McCormick and become a starter in this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. So this is my mock 4.0 haul here. I'm going to get Malachi Starks to be my new Swiss Army knife, defensive weapon, chess piece. Then I got DJ Giddens to be my new number 1 running back, J.J. Peegs to be my new nose tackle, Joe Milton to be a dart throw at quarterback, Dante Thornton Jr. to be a deep threat wide receiver, and Jackson Slater as a depth piece along the interior of the offensive line that I think has some nice potential. So grade my mock draft this week, guys, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for this week's mock draft, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the very end. Again, don't be afraid to let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. All right, so our segments are done for the day, guys. So we'll keep this thing going until essentially the super chats run out. And we'll see if we can get to 100. If we get to $100, guys, and we're only $40 away from 100, we'll stay live for an extra 10 minutes. But Justin, $2, says just for the Dulac talk. Hilarious.
F Dulac, dude.
I mean, he's a joke. And by the way, I'll point this out too. This is now the second year in a row where Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan played the Steelers media like a fiddle. Because what did we hear the entire time? Oh, they want to bring back Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Well, guess what? They only offered Justin Fields like Daniel Jones money. So they really didn't want to bring him back.
At all.
All right, like at all. They wanted him back at their price, potentially, but they weren't going to pay more than $15 million. And if you're not willing to pay a quarterback more than $15 million, how much do you really believe in that guy? And then apparently they weren't willing to give Sam Darnold really any guaranteed money past the first season.
Yeah.
So they really weren't in the running for Sam Darnold. And they still haven't offered Russell Wilson a contract. So obviously they have been hunting Aaron Rodgers since the first day of free agency. But what did every single Steelers beat writer say? Oh, they're sticking with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Guess what? That's what the team wanted them to think, all right? And that's the thing about Steelers media, man, is that the Steelers, the information that leaks out of the Steelers building is what the Steelers want out of the building.
Absolutely.
Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, you can say whatever you want about those guys. They are masters at manipulating the media into thinking things about their football team that aren't true.
Yes, they are, and they did it 2 years in a row.
And they
with
did it
Russell
2 years.
Wilson.
Like I'm not believing anything that comes out of Dulac's mouth. I'm not believing anything that comes out of somebody that covers the Steelers as a beat writer. I'm just not.
Fuck 'em.
Because at that point, that's what the Steelers want us to think, and what they think is what they want us to think is usually not the truth. So that's just what it is. All right, so let's put on a shot clock here, Coop. 5 minutes to get $40. And if we can get $40, we'll stay live for 10 more minutes, chop it up, talk some Steelers football. We still got 340 people watching live. If you got any questions, if you've got anything to discuss with us here on the show, we're all ears. Ooh, okay. We just got a $2 super chat from my man, Justin Yankuzi. We got multiple Justins in here at this point, so 5 minutes to make $40. We can make $40 in the next 5 minutes. We'll stay live an extra 10 minutes, guys. So obviously, it's not the countdown to kickoff, Coop. It is shot clock. There we go. So once we get Justin's super chat loaded up, we will talk about what he wants to talk about here. And his question was, why do you think veteran wide receivers are teamless? So I think he's talking about guys like Tyler Lockett, guys like Stephon Diggs, guys like Amari Cooper. The answer, Justin, is they're not very good anymore.
That's what it is. They're cooked.
And Stephon Diggs has a little bit of a history, let's call it. And
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he hasn't exactly been the easiest wide receiver to deal with in terms of trade stuff, in terms of not being happy with not getting targets.
I thought you were going to talk about him and Cardi B.
I mean, there's that too, but that's not really a big issue. The big issue is apparently, he's a little bit of a diva, and at this point, is he a good enough receiver to deal with the diva behavior? I think the Bills moved off of him at the perfect time.
The Bills just love to get those cooked wide receivers in Amari Cooper and in Diggs as well.
Well, Diggs was good when he was there. They let go of him at the right time.
Yeah.
They did go out and get Cooper, who was cooked.
I mean, he's a joke.
Year, but that is just the reality of the situation.
Well, the Browns ruin everyone's career, so.
Yeah. And now that we're, the clock's kind of ticking here, Coop, let's talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers and what we think's going to happen. And I'll say this, if we don't get an answer by Saturday, I feel like this is going to go on for weeks.
It could go to the draft.
And it might get close to somewhere in the draft. And, it appears the Steelers are more than willing to let Rodgers, go about this at his own pace. And according to Pelissero, the Steelers and Rodgers have been in ongoing discussions ever since last week.
So they say.
Obviously, that hasn't resulted in a deal, but apparently the Steelers still feel very good about their chances. So obviously those discussions are positive.
And they're willing to wait.
And they're willing to wait.
For now.
And this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about here, guys. Who knows? He might want to go on a full 4-day darkness retreat before he makes a final decision. Who the fuck knows?
Maybe he already did.
Maybe he's in the darkness right now. We don't know. All right. And the thing about Rodgers, and they talked about this on McAfee, there might be 2 or 3 people on the entire planet what his thinking is. Like AJ Hawk, who is his former teammate and one of his best friends, says he hasn't even been in communication with him since free agency. Pat McAfee, who's probably on his top 10 best friends list, same thing. So, like, if he's not talking to AJ Hawk,
he ain't talking to
and
anybody.
He's not talking to Pat McAfee right now, I don't know if he's talking to anybody except his agent.
Well, he ain't talking to his family because
we don't have to get into the family thing, but anybody that claims to have inside information from Rodgers either A, got the information from his agent and he wants that information out there, or B, they're fucking lying. Those are the 2 possibilities because his circle is so tight that any reporting that claims to know what he's thinking, it's either manipulated or it's false.
His circle is what?
It's tight. Very tight circle with
good God.
with Aaron Rodgers.
On that note,
we've got a minute left here. If somebody puts in a 50, we'll stay live for another 10 minutes. But still at $40 to go with a minute left to go. Listen, man, March Madness is going on right now. We don't have to go live for another 10 minutes. We can end this show right now if that's what you guys want to do. I will say we're 7 likes away from 200 likes. If we could get to 200 likes, that would be phenomenal here, guys. We still got 351 people watching. If you could just click that thumbs up icon for us, it'd really help us out.
Cassie, the answer to that is absolutely.
The answer to that, well, what'd she say?
Is Coop going out tonight?
Oh, yes. So after work tonight, Coop and I are going to go watch some March Madness at our favorite watering hole.
Oh, yeah.
Get some chicken strips.
Chicken strips are very good. I don't know what I'm going to eat.
Get some cherry Cokes.
Shirley Temps?
Some Shirley Temps.
Shirley Temples are fire. I won't
do they serve Shirley
sure,
Temples?
Everybody has grenadine.
Yeah, it's true. It's just Sprite and grenadine,
yeah.
right? Yeah. I might have to get one of those. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Shot clock has run out. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers comes to some sort of decision sometime soon. But until then, guys, we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.
And here we go, Steelers.